So today we have the pleasure of having two of the founders of Gain the Lead. It's a company that is empowering organizations and professionals in tech, pharma, and payment industries to achieve sustainable success and embrace change by combining cutting-edge neuroscience with practical experience. They deliver transformative training and consulting services tailored to the needs of the industries that we had mentioned. Their training programs are designed to equip you with the tools to excel in your specific fields, whether leading teams, closing deals in pharma, or navigating the complex world of tech and payments. They've been doing this for over 15 years, and I'd like to introduce George Schott and James Miller. And hello. And we'd love to kind of find out a little more how you guys started, what inspired you, and how did neuroscience become part of all of it too. So whichever of you would like to start, feel free to jump right in.
As I started, it's probably a good idea to start with that. So
that'd be great.
The whole story started in 1998 when I was in my first job. And I was expecting my boss to be amazing and everything now that I'm leaving school to be working well, perfectly, full of structure, everyone working together, doing the best for the customer. Back there in IT sales, and as you can imagine, my naive picture of the world got destroyed very quickly by a very choleric, aggressive boss that sometimes was your best friend and then everything in between. And it didn't bother me. It's like, okay, if that's what you're going to do, then that's what you're going to do. But it did bother a lot of my colleagues. And over the years, I became this person in the organization that everyone would come to when they had problems with him. And I'd try and solve it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So back then I decided, okay, if I get a chance to do leadership, I'm going to do it better than this guy. I want, of course, to be successful, but I want people to be happy. I want them to enjoy working for me. I don't want them to be crying in someone's office a couple of times a year. So I decided to do that. That's where the passion came from. They made me the vice president of networks in that company because the entire division left in one day. Like, it really was quite bad. So I set out to say, okay, well, if I've got this chance, I'm going to see if I can do it. And it worked very well. So I left after a while, deciding, well, if it works that well with this guy, maybe I should go and build my own things. With this goal in mind at about 40 to become a leadership trainer and help others do the same. But I'm now 45 and I've been training leadership for 20 years now. Because things just happen differently. So on the way there, I found neuroscience by picking up a book about neurocommunication. And it's just like another book about sales, like, okay, let's see if there's anything interesting. I was completely hooked. So back then I called the author, Elke Schwarz, and Dr. Bittner. We had a good chat, a good talk. We started working together. We built a marketing company together. We took their neuroscience that they'd focused a lot on sales and then deployed it to marketing and then deployed it to leadership. And I've basically been helping organizations ever since take the latest neuroscience to get better results, like to gain the lead, which is where our company name comes from.
I like it. It's very powerful. That's amazing. That's great. It's interesting when you work for someone that is challenging, especially your first, career job out of your university experience and so forth. And the way you sort of you kind of found yourself in a role where you were sort of managing sort of the dysfunctionality of it all, but, and keeping a level head, but ultimately realizing it can be done better.
Oh, definitely.
And so that's what you're doing. That's great. And we also have George, that you've had the experience of working for James. So it's like, love to hear, your take on how things are going with your experience at Gain the Lead.
Yeah, thank you. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe a little bit on my background as well. As you mentioned,
Yes.
I started out in management consulting in my early career, right after university, and it was a rather small company, so I was involved in sales as well from the beginning on. And I always had like the desire to become self-employed at some point, or do my own thing, start my own company. And I was very curious about that and thought, hey, if I want to do that, I should probably learn how to do sales properly. And the opportunity came around
Hmm.
for to work for a big payment company here in Germany. So I moved to Munich, started at that company, and basically my expectation was, okay, I get in this company. It's a international successful company, and they're gonna teach me how to do sales like properly. They
The
really
best.
teach
Yeah.
me, yeah, the best people, and they really teach me how to do
Hmm.
it. And what I found was that I arrived at the company and basically I got a list of closed lost deals, and they said, "Hey, call these deals. There's not much you can do wrong, and see what comes out of it." And
Wow.
essentially, my whole onboarding process was, hey, okay, learning by doing. I had a mentor though, which was cool. He really
Hmm.
helped me, and also some very nice colleagues. But I mean, they were loaded with work. They didn't really have the time, and they did their best certainly, but it was a tough time, and I really had to like do my own thing and see what works and what doesn't.
Hmm.
And yeah, at some point I got a sales training, which was very helpful, but it was also quite theoretical, I would say. Um, and yeah, still it was a lot of learning by doing. It was quite successful. It was also a lot of fun working at that company. But the best thing about it was basically that I had the pleasure to meet James and our co-founder Marcus at this company, and we got in touch. And this company unfortunately went down. And after that, I decided to, finally, yeah, um, do my own thing and really, yeah, become self-employed. At first, it was more like, okay, doing some project management, some consulting in the payments industry. But since I met James, he gradually introduced me to the concept of neurocommunication, and it was really like, okay, well, now, so many things make sense. So many,
Hmm.
moving pieces suddenly fall into place. And I realized, hey, okay, this is why that didn't work. This is why that did work. And I realized, okay, if I knew that from the beginning on, I could have been much more successful.
Oh
And
wow. Hmm.
that was really like a turning point for
A
me.
light bulb. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I decided that I yeah, wanted to get involved in this, wanted to learn more about neurocommunication, about neuroscience, about the application in sales. And yeah, James luckily taught me that, and I decided that I want to pass on this knowledge. And I've been doing this for the last four or 5 years now.
Excellent.
And yeah, James and I and Marcus, we were working closely together. And about, I think, 3 years ago, I had the chance to actually join the company and become a shareholder in the company. And
Wonderful.
yeah, that was
Good
absolutely
choice.
fantastic. Yeah. And
Excellent.
yeah, since you asked, working with James is just, yeah, it's really amazing. It's really like that. James has a very high standard that he holds people to, but then
Hmm.
still also it's a lot of fun working together. And yeah, he really delivers on this promise and on his vision. Yeah, to make work enjoyable and
Work life
successful.
and your
Yeah,
personal life that coexist. And
absolutely.
so, yeah, that's fantastic. And so I'm curious, like the whole, because the biggest difference that I see, like with Gain the Lead, versus other marketing or training, sales training companies, et cetera, is the emphasis on the subconscious, the neuroscience, et cetera. James, maybe you could share a little bit about kind of like, I know it was a like you partnered with your with the writers of the book that sort of inspired you. Is there more that you can share a little bit to the audience in terms of like what are some of those things that are so deeply seated or difficult, that are driving a lot of the decisions, around purchasing or acquiring things?
Yeah, that's a good question that we could spend weeks talking about. to make it easy and quick to understand what we mainly focus on, I'll take the leadership route. Georg can look at sales.
Okay.
So you now see all over the place companies and coaches cropping up talking about the nervous system and talking about, staying stress-free and mastering chaos, mastering pressure and all of that. Well, that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 15 years. Because once you understand how the brain works, stress and pressure is one of the first and biggest topics that comes up to master. And the reason for that is a very simple phenomenon. Maybe you know this yourself, right? You've also been in plenty of meetings over the years. Could be one-on-ones, could be bigger meetings, where there's been pressure, right? Very normal in the business world. And when we're in meetings like that, of course, we do our thing. We work hard, we answer the questions, we have the slides ready. And then that meeting finishes and 5, 10, 15 minutes go by. And all of a sudden you think, oh, why didn't I say that? Or, oh, I should have said it this way. Or, oh, I missed that bit out. Now I've got to write this email and correct it. And all kinds of thoughts like that. That's because of a phenomena that our brain reacts to pressure with stress reactions, which are also called fight and flight reactions. Right? So our brain today is reacting to pressure in business the same as it did in the Stone Age to a tiger. And there are many things that it does to protect us in those situations. And one of them is quite simple, right? If you've got a tiger stood there, the last thing you want to be doing is thinking, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, what's the best option? By the time you've had those thoughts, you're already meat, right?
Your lunch.
Yeah, lunch. And so this is a brain. It's quite a small one. So under stress and pressure, this area here, this is called the prefrontal lobe.
Cortex or whatever.
Or prefrontal cortex, yep. I see you've had some experience with this yourself. What the body does is it removes the activity in the area by reducing the blood flow, it squashes it together, just switches off those logical, structured, slow thinking processes and goes into a fast response react mode called a fight and flight mode. And so we're in a business meeting where we need, our maximum mental capacity and our brain switches off, right, which makes very little sense. Especially
in today's world.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing in that business meeting that is actually a threat, but our brain still does the same thing. And our concept of what we call brain-on leadership equips leaders with the skills to stay fully at full mental capacity, right? Master all of those fight and flight reactions, reduce them, remove them, reprogram them, so that even in the highest pressure situations, they can stay fully conscious with all of their mental capacity available to them. You see similar techniques in sports, of course, right? The last thing you need is some $1 million football player going into a fight and flight reaction at the moment where their performance is needed. So we have similar techniques that are used in high performance sports. And once we've supported a leader on achieving that for themselves, they can then go and lead their team in the same way. Just imagine the organizations out there, the CEO stands up in the morning and says, now it's really tough, guys. Crisis is coming. The world is going in the wrong direction. Now we got to save this thing. Instantly, they're switching off everyone's brain. If you need to do amazing things in a tough time, the last thing you want to be doing is switching people's brains off. You want to be doing the opposite, right? Equipping them with the skills to stay calm, focused, under pressure with their full mental capacity. And that's what Gain the Lead does. That's what Brain on Leadership is all about. And that's
I like that term, Brain on Leadership. Yeah. Just, if you wouldn't mind touching, what interests me is also how the actual reprogramming or the reducing, can you share a few of your processes or techniques that you do to achieve that?
Sure.
Or is it, yeah.
Right, so the brain works with a very simple principle that anything we repeat, it makes automatic programs out of. Simple example, you're learning to play the piano, right? The first time we play a song, it's all like, what next? And it's very sort of mechanical. You practice that 100 times and all of a sudden it just flows. Which is the same thing here, just we're changing programs, right? So let's say you're in a meeting and the CFO says, you've done, oops, I've frozen and now have a nice little thumb coming up.
I see something like that.
So
I would go ahead and keep sharing. We can hear you clearly.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm
Maybe
sure
it'll
it'll pop back in. Yeah.
I need to switch the reactions off and hope that it comes back.
Yes.
No, I might have to log back out and come back in, and then we'll just edit this bit out.
Yeah, we can chat with George for a bit and go over to the tech side. So George, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I'm more focused on the sales side of things.
The sales side,
so to
yes.
say. Yeah,
okay.
Where we basically apply the same principles. So it's also the neuroscientific principles that we use in leadership can also be used in sales because, as James mentioned, let's say the wrong kind of communication triggers these fight and flight reactions, and it's basically very similar in sales, right? So we can influence our sales outcomes positively if we use the right kind of communication. And it's quite interesting because you can show, or studies have been made where they try to see if they can predict buying behavior just because of the brain activity that they could see. So they did fMRI studies, they put people in brain scanners and then let them do actual buying decisions and see, okay, can we predict it just because, of what happens in the brain, basically. And of course, you can, otherwise it wouldn't make much sense to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because you can see, which areas of the brain are helping you as a salesperson, basically, are increasing the motivation of a person to buy from you, and which areas of the brain are decreasing the motivation to buy from you. And based on that, we can adjust our communication to trigger these kinds of or these specific brain areas, basically. And it's quite interesting because, or maybe we can do a little experiment here as well.
Okay.
I will tell you 2 or 3 product categories now, and you just tell me what's your favorite brand within this product category.
All right.
Okay.
Sure. Let's do it.
So let's start with cars.
McLaren.
Nice. What about sports apparel, for example?
Wow, that's a good one. Let's just say Nike.
Nike, okay. What about airlines?
Emirates,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So, and I think it's quite interesting. It doesn't really matter what brands you just
selected.
Mentioned. How long did it take you to come up with a brand that's your favorite brand?
In most cases, pretty quickly. Sometimes I had to think about it when there were a couple equally good choices.
Yeah. But it's usually if you have if there's a clear preference, it's just like that, and it's up in it's in your brain, and that's an unconscious, intuitive decision that your brain makes in the unconscious, basically. And it's quite interesting to see. We can see that about 95% of our decisions, buying decisions, but also of our behavior, that's the thing for James's leadership part, so to say, is basically made unconsciously. And we can see that you can actually predict this kind of behavior because it happens unconsciously, and then this intuitive decision basically surfaces, and then you make a decision. But we follow these unconscious preferences to 95% of the time. And that's why it's really interesting to have a look at this. Okay, what happens in the brain, and how can we use that in a positive way to actually increase buying motivation and also make sales conversations much easier, because we don't have these fight and flight reactions that James talked about earlier. Makes it much easier with less objections, can achieve higher commitment in the closing phase and so on. So it makes the whole sales process much easier. And that's what we look at in the sales space here with neuroscience and neurocommunication.
And that's especially really popular with your younger salespeople, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and that, because they can't identify with being like pushy sales. But neuro sales is a very pull-oriented. It's like doing the right thing so the other person naturally, with a good relationship, wants to buy more from you. Which just makes it so much easier for organizations to also engage the more younger audiences in sales.
Excellent. So James, as far as like kind of segueing into, like, we're starting a new year, there's a lot of changes in terms of strategy for gain the lead, in terms of scaling your business or growing your business. Can you share a little bit about like what direction you guys are thinking about heading in, and what do you see as the upsides, and what are the challenges ahead?
Well, the fun and exciting bit ahead is, of course, AI, being something that is going to massively revolutionize our business, and I'm very sure will lead to a massive consolidation in the leadership and sales training industries, because we can make AIs now that will replace your average sales trainer quite quickly. And they're faster, easy to work with, always available, always ready. We've been excited about this ever since the start, ever since ChatGPT became usable, to see how can we use this, how can we make it happen. So it's about continuing that journey, because the AI is really raising the bar for everyone in every industry right now. The world situation too. And Brain on Leadership is now there to help them, jump that bar, leap over it, right?
Or embrace
embrace it, absolutely. Right, so we've spent the last 2 years developing products with AI, integrating AI into the training, building sustainability coaches. So just imagine you come to a training after the understanding, then you've got your AI coach, which is basically me or Georg, always available to you, to just raise sustainability. Ask it questions, practice stuff, refresh things anytime, anywhere, exactly with your specific questions you have in that moment as leaders, which is extremely valuable. I mean, that would have been a 3-hour coaching session for quite some money 2 years ago, and now is an app on my phone, and I've got the same level of answer.
And what's kind of interesting about that is like as the history occurs, or the more of your leaders are asking questions, then it's learning and growing and providing all this available to everyone has access to this app. So it's so powerful. It's great that you've really you're ahead of the curve, I think, in terms of you're applying it already. I think companies are trying to rapidly, kind of get in a position like you are already in. Yeah. So that sounds good.
And applying that in all areas of our business, right? Because we've just become so much more efficient. Simple example, whereas, let's say, even only 6 months ago, if we're going to design a concept for a customer, it's probably going to take us like half a day to a day to build them a 6-month program. We now have an AI that knows all of our stuff. We give it the requests from the customer, and it produces us a perfectly formatted PowerPoint document with a full concept in it. Funny story, I took the results of that just 3 weeks ago and thought, it would be better if it's like this, and changed about 50% of it. Then we had the pitch with the customer, and they said, no, we want it like that. Like the AI
Like
was
the other
quicker than we were. It actually really got the essence and built the perfect program. So it said, okay, well, let's change it back then. And they were really happy. So that
Fantastic.
saves us lots of time, which are, of course, investments we can pass on to customers to become more efficient, right? Which is what we're all looking for with AI, actually genuinely becoming more efficient and seeing tangible savings.
Absolutely. That sounds great. So, and do you see, like, are you running into any roadblocks, kind of integrating it into your company in any areas of your company?
Well, the one we ran into very quickly was that companies, of course, want to keep their company information, all of their private points inside the company.
Right.
So rather than us having our app and leaders logging onto that from one of our big corporate clients, we build it inside their systems, right? We put all of our coaches inside of their systems so they can be used internally. Because no one wants a shadow AI company secrets leaking out there. So we keep it all safe and secure inside their organizations. That
So you
was
guys
the big
develop
one
some,
we ran into.
Yeah. So as far as like developing custom solutions,
GPTs.
AI, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were able to successfully do that. So you have some tech people that are pretty strong in AI coding and things like that, or
we do, yes.
That's great. Okay, well, good. And so, as far as do you have like aspirations for growth in terms of like do you want to increase your presence in the U.S., for instance, or in Asia, even though you have presence now? I'm sure that's probably an important
we've
aspect of your.
consistently grown between 20 and 30%.
Oh, that's excellent.
Over the last 5 years, and the idea is to continue that path.
Absolutely. Well, good. Do you see any competition coming on from other, training companies, et cetera, or?
Well, I deeply believe training companies need to be a good human fit, right? I mean, of course, Audi and BMW are competitors, and so are Mercedes. There's space for all of them, though. We have our style, we have our way of working, we resonate extremely well with tech leaders because, of course, it's all we do is scientific and we can explain it into all detail. So they're like, oh, yeah, I really understand that. It makes total sense now. I'm not manipulating someone. I'm just doing what will help them understand quicker. And they understand it. And so we resonate really well with them. I'm sure there are other trainers that resonate well with them too. It's about finding the companies that are in the position that resonate well with the way we act, we behave, we go about our thing, and then working well with them. We typically stay with them for a very long time and help them develop over years, and neurocommunication becomes part of their culture over time.
Oh, that sounds very good. And as far as
sorry,
did you have something, George, you wanted to share? Yeah,
I think it's also quite helpful to look at different approaches and different kinds of trainers, and then see what works best at the end of the day, right? And to put certain things together and see what's works best for each person individually. And that can be really helpful. So as James mentioned, I think there's space for many training companies.
Excellent. Yeah, because I read a statistic the other day that I think in this culture today too, that there's such a push to people want to learn by not having to sign up for courses, do this or that. You know what I mean? They're trying to do it themselves type thing. But I think at this level, when you're dealing with leaders of companies, et cetera, I think they can see the value of working with a seasoned company that's so progressive and embracing the latest in technology and so forth.
Well, the time is definitely right to invest in leadership training for any organization. And the level of pressure has gone up. Most companies are understaffed, at least a little bit, potentially a lot. So the high workload is now meeting fewer people. And it was DDI, also very, very large US training company, did a massive study and worked out that over 71% of leaders are in, at least most of the time, in a fight and flight mode, completely stressed out, close to burnout. The reasons being the pressure, the extra, let's say, especially in the US and the Western world, the extra feeling of we're in a crisis, which doesn't exist in Asia, by the way. Like, nobody cares in Asia.
So you see,
completely relaxed. They're going there as a totally different world, because they're all in high performance and fun mode, especially in Singapore and Japan at the moment. And so now the time to support the leaders in doing something that they've never had to do before, like perform under complete massive stress and pressure that's not going away in the next years, will be absolutely essential for companies. If they just let their leaders all burn out, they're going to end up with fluctuation rates, and let's not even go there. But if they can help their leaders, and their leaders then help their teams become completely resilient and relaxed in this situation, so they have their full mental capacity to tackle the challenges, that's going to be a massive competitive edge. And AI is not going to do that with your leaders, right? So that really is going to need human interaction.
Real person. And that's, I think that goes across, like, even replacing, we were talking about sales teams and this and that, and that AI is definitely going to play a role in that process. But ultimately, at some point, a human, expert has to step in and sort of, like, close the deal, nurture the customer a little bit more, whatever it takes to make the customer feel, like this isn't just a robotic experience. It's like a real,
absolutely.
Company. So, otherwise, this has been a great conversation. I just want to really, kind of wrap up in terms of, like, just summarizing kind of the areas that we talked about. And I feel like with the neuroscience and kind of what expertise you guys have, and kind of the sort of the structure of your business that you've created, James, in terms of the work-life balance and sort of walking your talk, so to speak. It's like, you don't seem like a very stressed guy. And it's just like, what I mean? And you have probably a lot of responsibilities and stuff. But I think you count on and rely on your team and have trained them in such a way that they're taking care of what they need to do, and you can count on them. So great job. Definitely. With that. Yeah. So otherwise, is there any closing thoughts for you guys as far as what you want to see for Gain the Lead, or what you would help, as far as, like, if somebody was on here that wanted to consider working with Gain the Lead, what would be the next steps?
Yeah, I think so. One point I would like to make is that I think, especially in times of AI, right, where everything becomes more and more automated, and AI takes over more and more tasks in sales, in leadership, I think it's especially important to have this kind of human factor, as you mentioned, right? At some point,
absolutely,
a real person has to step in, and then having that human factor and being able to build this customer relationship and to really build strong connections, I think that's more important than ever, and is still going to be more important, as more and more AI comes in, basically. So I think that's quite an important point here.
Yeah. And James, as far as, like, if there's leaders that get a chance to view this, or want to learn more about Gain the Lead, what would be your suggestion in terms of, like, setting up call with them, or should they go to your website, or how do they sort of, like, connect with you guys?
Yeah, well, the fastest way is either going to be go and see our website. There's a
Yeah.
contact form on there, which actually goes directly into Georg and my inboxes.
Excellent.
Or find us on LinkedIn. But finding a
Excellent.
James Miller on LinkedIn sometimes
It's going to be tough.
there's a lot of them out there. But James Miller Gain the Lead will find us even on Google very, very quickly.
Excellent.
And reach out, and we're happy to talk, to see what people's situations are, to let's say discover and explore together with them if there's something we can do to support them in achieving their goals. What ROI and what value would potentially come out of that, and give them a basis to make a solid decision for themselves.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great having you both on this podcast, and we look forward to finding out where your business ends up in the end of the year. And I wish you guys the very best of success. And thanks for joining Founders HQ.
Thank you very much, Alan. It's been a pleasure.
So I